Hard drive is full. That's what it feels like. My hard drive's full. Why is it that we have to do
clear the cache?
Clear the cache. I'm gonna clear the whole motherfucker.
Clear the
Yeah. Why is it every time there's a watershed moment, you and I do a show?
What's a watershed moment? What does that mean?
A watershed moment. Let's look at the definition. Let's see what we're waiting. Watershed moment. Okay.
Is that when the dam's gonna burst?
Something like that. It says, get over there. A watershed moment is a turning point, the exact moment that changes the direction of an activity or situation. A watershed moment is a dividing point from which things will never be the same. It is considered momentous through a watershed moment is often recognized in hindsight. Well, I believe we're recognizing it in the moment. That's the way
John is saying I'm echoing. So is the sound still giving weird feedback?
Oh, man. What is that all about?
Oh. I think it's your connection.
No, I don't know what that is. Hang on. Let me see if I can figure it out real quick.
You've had that a couple times.
I've had it the last 2 or 3 shows, yeah. And hang on. Let me see if I can figure it out. All right. So I don't have anything on here. That's the sound here. That's... Okay. Boom, boom. Keep talking.
Is it sounding better now? Or am I echoing?
No, it's not on her end. It's on my end. That really sucks.
Is that better? I don't have the book on.
No, it's not you.
Yeah, no, because I think Ernestine is saying she has Facebook on.
Yeah.
Is it now? Or is it just crap?
There's some kind of weird echo. Hang on. Let me see if I can figure it out. I should be able to figure out. Something changed. And it has to be on a setting. Maybe she's transmitting a galaxy far away. Yeah, she is, no doubt. Julie Dar Roberts is in the house. All right, hang on. We got to get the sound.
Fix the echo. Yeah,
okay,
because I'm very loud to begin with.
Audio speakers, enable echo cancellation, broadcast system audio all the time. Hey, okay, try it now. How's it sound now?
Hello?
Do I have
friend?
stereo?
Am I still echoing? I know you're normally fine. It seems to be your guest on the last couple shows has this weird feedback.
Use this setting only when max audio output is being mixed back into the mix channel by your audio interface.
Is that better?
Okay, let's try that. You are activating the system output mix mode. ECam live will not. Okay, whatever. I'm just going to push.
No, it's still echoing.
Still echoing? I really don't know what's going on. Unless, how about that?
Is that better?
We can try Zoom, but I don't know if that's going to help.
Okay, could try Zoom. All right. Give us a couple minutes.
Really weird, but let's make sure because I made a couple of changes.
All right, hang in there, friends. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
Wait. What does yes mean? It's okay now? 2 people said yes.
Still echoing. It's not better.
No.
Yes, what?
Julie Dar Roberts said no. Julie Dar Roberts says it's fixed, and Vanita. Okay, it's all good now. So I made some kind of change there.
What did you do?
I don't know. It's a watershed moment. I have no idea, man. I have no idea about anything.
Fix your shit, Todd. This is what this should.
That's what we're all doing, I think. That's what we're all doing.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Okay, we're all good.
We're all good. We're all good now.
If it's a pivoting moment.
It's a watershed moment. It's not a pivoting moment.
I've never heard of that term.
Never heard of that?
It is a watershed moment.
No, watershed moment's like your father. Well, shit, his whole life, really. I mean, but your father doing what he did when he left Vietnam, and getting sunk in the ocean, and then still
Yeah.
coming back. He's probably had many, but that would be a watershed moment. Watershed moments, like when the whole fucking earth changes. they, they're coming like they're coming like 3 times a day now.
Yes, yes. No, it's so true though. I think a lot of people have felt, I know it sounds cliche. I think like there's a couple cliche things, when you come on to Soulogy, there's people that would say, how are the energies? It's off the hook. Everything's so weird.
Mm, then what? what year was that? No, that no no, that was December. That was December because you left before my birthday purposely. No, no, but we okay. So then, no, we connect. You have no sound. Shit. Hang on. Oh my God. Okay, hang on a sec. What the hell is going on here? Okay, I'm gonna get her fixed. Just give me a second. Interview. Okay, take that out. Okay, try it now.
Hello.
Okay.
Oh, now there's a weird echo on your side. Can everyone hear me?
Okay, wait a minute. Wait a minute. The comments aren't in time. They take like 20, 30 seconds. I think it's fixed now
Yeah.
because I changed what I just changed.
What are you playing with? Stop touching.
Spotty, it'll work out if you keep talking. Okay. Okay, it's perfect
Is
now.
that
Okay,
fine?
she's back.
Okay, we'll just
Yeah, what were you saying? What were you saying? Oh, so,
I think the
no, no.
last show together was in Sedona.
I think the last show together, oh, yeah, was in Sedona. Okay, I thought you meant like privately. No,
No, no.
yeah, okay, yeah. So that was the last time when you were in
Yeah, I
Sedona.
think
Yeah,
so.
that was cool. That
Yeah.
was one of the watershed moments in my life.
Mine
Spending time with you.
too. Mine too, my friend. Mine too. It's like the trip that we never made it to the Grand Canyon.
That's the craziest thing. And seeing that woman in my dreams, and then we met her, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on? How do you miss the Grand Canyon, like the eighth
How do
wonder
you?
of the?"
Yeah, it spans like 4 states. I don't know how you miss it. That's how talented you are. But
I
yes, I
know.
think it's been like a year, and the reason the reason I felt like I didn't have a calling to come on. To be honest with you, I had
Mm,
like a get like basically those moments where you kicked off the ledge
right,
and you can't just ignore it anymore. And then
right.
I sent you the shot. I was like, started texting Todd. I was like, hey, you want to see something absolutely disgusting? And Todd's like, yeah, send it through. So I sent a picture of my ankle. So there's a story behind this. There's a great story behind this. Um, so this is great plug-in for Soulogy Fest. It may or may not be. I don't know. We'll see how this pans out.
It's all right.
Soulogy
It's
if you
transparent.
exactly if you've been following Todd, Soulogy Fest 2 Todd was not in attendance, and I was accidentally put into a role that basically just running Soulogy Fest. When I was there, I basically got bit on the ankle, and then everyone was telling me it was trigger bites because Ashley Lee and I weren't very smart, and we were walking through the fields in flip flops because it was like bloody hell hot. So our ankles got bit like crazy, and she had the same kind of bite marks as I did. So I didn't really pay attention to it. One peculiar thing is I got bit on both ankles, but on my left ankle, I got bit in a pattern that looked like a small, tiny mouth with teeth bit me. And in the Vietnamese culture, that patterning is called a demon bite. And I think I showed you when I was in Sedona. We traded demon bite stories because you were sleeping on the floor and you had demon bites on your arm, I think, on that day. So we were exchanging demon bite stories. And I said, yeah, it's really weird. So that I got bit at the end of Soulogy Fest, which was I think was August, and then I went to go see you in November. So a couple months, it hasn't really healed. I didn't think much of it. it never really healed. Okay. And it's one of those things where it's just like the rest of my bites healed fine, except the patterning on my ankle that had the demon bite of the tiny little mouth. So I didn't really pay attention to it, but it never really healed properly. It always kind of calloused over and always felt like there was a hard surface, like something underneath it. And I constantly like pick at it because I'm Vietnamese and I like picking at my scars.
Yeah.
So it's just like, so I'm there picking at it. And then last week, it just flared right up, like right up, started pussing, and it's hot and it's throbbing. Even my husband, who likes, obviously is attracted to me, he didn't want to touch me. He was like, that's the most disgusting thing ever. So keep that ankle away from me. So I was just like,
Oh
oh my
shoot!
God,
It looked like a
it's
close up of a mountain range.
it was so gross, right? It was like disgusting. And then I was sitting there thinking, uh, okay, this is really weird. It's been well over a year, and that part still has not healed. But not only has it never healed properly, just last week it kind of like flared up. And it's still flared up. It's still kind of pussing and oozing. I have a doctor's appointment. I'll go see if there's something that the modern medicine world can cure for demon bites. But the whole point is it occurred to me that Soulogy Fest 3 is coming up. So I'm like, oh, it's that energy from Mulberry Mountain must be active somewhere. And I know it's my narrative. I'm not saying every guest that had attended had basically this encounter, but I definitely had a very strong encounter with a darker form of energy being. And it for whatever reason, it is very active now, like that. And that's why my demon bite has flared up. It's kind of like my body letting me know that this energy form is back into circulation, which I thought was interesting because I'm like, I wonder, I wonder how the
Oh, we're
rest of
gonna have a long show tonight.
I wonder how the rest of the attendees that kind of because there were two camps of attendees with Soulogy Fest. There was the one that like it was hard on them, yet they persevered through. They worked through some interesting obstacles to get to the mountain, and when they did, they were there and they had a blast. But they still were acknowledging and recognizing there was a form that was definitely a on the darker side. Let's just say
Let's
it's on the
say it's
darker
on the
side of the
side you
spectrum.
don't. Let's say it's on the side that a person, any of us, doesn't want to look at.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. It's that aspect, and it's all of us, but it's the aspect that may perhaps you don't want to acknowledge. And it's one of those things where it's just like I am definitely not like a friendly, cuddly person. Okay, so I do play more on. I represent that side. If there's
It's
inappropriate humor, I'm the first one to speak up. So I definitely am the ambassador of that side. But the lineage that I carry, I'm a little bit more in tune to that side, and I recognize when that side is up. Right. So it's just one of those genetics that comes up, and you whatever you just kind of move ahead with it. So I was thinking, uh, so that was really I thought that was really interesting because the other camp of attendees didn't have that experience. They had a totally opposite experience, and they won't have that. So I just thought if anybody was still having like a loop through from that, because I know it's one of those things where it's just like when huge groups gather, you do accidentally open up portals accessing vortexes of energy. There are definitely paranormal activities that come through when that level of people meet together. So I thought that was very interesting.
yes, and okay, now I see why we got together. So here's the thing. All right, like absolutely, I will tell everyone and anyone at this point. Solji Fest in 2021 in Sedona was like a collaboration with Playmates or the external, even Mother Sedona, and the things that were happening, and Solji kind of coming out or something happening. I mean, it was all kind of. But then last year, I think it reflects the energy and the whirling of the energy. and where everything is coming up. Every fucking thing is coming up in its own way, because it really ultimately it's the energy, the way you feel it, and sometimes it'll be through a bite, and I still have mine, and it's coming back. But the thing is, I would absolutely say that going into this Soulogy Fest, that it is a space where every single aspect of dark and light is invited, because this is where we're at, and this is what I'm understanding. This is why my patience has diminished, not in a bad way or a non-compassionate way, but it's all or nothing now. And everything goes. Every role, every label, we've talked about it, but this is the real shit. And so I saw what happened at the first Soulgy Fest in Sedona, because the waves went on and on and on. Like
Mhm.
there were people that were having visions and dimensional experiences, and it was mutual. I can think of Delia and Anita and so many other people, Julie Pershin, and other people too, other little groups. The second one, same thing, and I'm still seeing it. Um, and obviously, I had a different trip there. But if you think about what I experienced and what I talked about, because we did a show when I got back to Houston, when I got out of jail, and we talked about it. But we talked about Franco coming in. We talked about all the lineage that was shown to me. And so, what I really saw it as, if you looked at, my own situation, even now where I sit now, which is the exact place I came in off the street 10 years ago and made the first Soulogy video, right? In my mom's
Yeah.
house under totally different circumstances on the bayou, etc. But I really feel like that it's because I was told that, you're going to do it then. I'm like, man, I don't want to do it then. Who wants to do it in December, in Houston? And no, you're going to do it there and you're going to do it then, because it's going to kind of, how would you say this? Kind of like present everything in a rush or a flush or a surge coming out of 2023, probably a lot like 2022, and then weaving in almost like a ramp into 2024. But in order to do that at the highest level of mastery is to face everything that we need to face, by ourselves, because that's really what it comes down to. So, this is, to me, you're obviously connected, and I can see like your role and even your lineage's role in working with what we call the dark and being sensitive to it, and ultimately it happens because you're transmuting it, and we all are in our own way. It just all looks different, but yeah, I would say,
I would,
yeah.
I would argue. You know what? I think the biggest thing is a lot of people are at the point in the community where they're like, I need to transmute dark to light. Like
Right.
that's also a cliche. I would not say that would be my role. It may have been my role down the lineage for sure. Fighting the dark. That's kind of just because back then my ancestors didn't really have anything good on TV, so that's what they did for
That was
entertainment.
my
But
role.
I
My role was fighting the dark. I fought the dark for
fighting the
eons.
dark. I think the biggest thing here is in this dualistic dimension, it's about exploring what the other creation of the spectrum is.
Mm.
And I'm happy to be one of those people that will be like, okay, let's explore it. And what does that mean for the human experience? What does it mean in terms of elasticity? When you explore that part of you, what actually happens is the depth of the emotion body, which is we are all emotional people, right? And all those people that keep trying to tell me to 0 point shit, I'm like, stop zero, stop zero. I'm not 0 pointing shit. Okay, don't tell me what to do. First off, we're not here to be neutral about anything. Okay, we are emotional people. There's going to be a spectrum and elasticity to that emotionality. That is the power of this dimension. So I think I'm not advocating that the dark is good or the light is good. All I'm saying is when you explore when you recognize, when you acknowledge that spectrum of the human emotion, the depths and saturations of colors, experiences, creations goes a lot deeper. And what this world is going through right now, collectively, what we're going to right now is actually the depth of compassion. Are we able, and you can't do that if you never risked it all. You know what I mean? If you always played it safe, you can't actually tell me that the depth of compassion is there. To me, that's still a superficial depth. It's just like, how do we say, yeah, homelessness is terrible if you actually never slept on the streets? If you haven't, and that just what happens for you is walking that creation line gives you firsthand knowledge of what it feels like to feel the deeper parts of being the human experience. So when you do meet with a light encounter of it, you become more grateful. There's more gratitude towards it. You understand that all the light filled moments are just moments. So, and they could disappear on you anytime, right? So it's one of those things where it does help anchor you in. So it's it's one of those things. Again, not advocating to go play in the dark, but there is some value of exploring the full spectrum of your human experience, and that means going to both sides. And then the neutralization is a tool to help you when you are stuck. And sometimes you do get stuck in the light side, right? Where it's just like that. And that neutralization is really just basically being detached from your emotional body. So there's like no heaviness to it, there's no judgment to it. You're just moving through in a state where you're bearing witness to just a bunch of data coming at you. That's all it is. At the end of the day, when you're neutralized, you're just like, it's binary numbers. If you guys do coding, you'll know zeros and one are coming at you, and you're like, so what? It's zeros and ones. You don't react to it, right?
Same old
But that's
shit. Same
exactly,
old
and you're
shit.
just
Bigger stick to stir it with.
so it's interesting. So I find it fascinating. I think is the best word to say it, because I obviously don't understand it all, and anyone that claims that they do, you're full of shit. But I find it fascinating that the 1 month out to Soulogy Fest 3, my demon bite wound has flared up, and I'm like, yes, I wonder what this all means. It's one of those things where it's just like, well, it's there's a reason behind it, right? So that energy form, we can almost make it like, I don't know, make fun of it, but it's almost like a Soulogy Fest mascot at this point, the mulberry mountain bean. But it's one of those things where it's just like, the irony of it is, the beauty of Soulogy Fest is not to sit around in meditation in a circle kumbayaing, right? It's messy. Like this Soulogy Fest. Trust me, I was behind the scenes organizing Soulogy Fest 1 for operations. Number 2, I was supposed to be behind the scenes operating, but I was on the front side too. It is messy. And sort of like half-ass committed to Soulogy Fest 3 on the background, just coaching Todd because I don't really want to be involved. But it's one of those things, but it's just a different way of coming into the fullness of who you are. So it's not like the other not like the other gatherings where there's one point person that sets the vibrational tone to try to bring you into ascension. The reason why it's really messy is because the way that, and it is because of you, is because Mr. Medina has this natural talent for attracting a certain, it's like there are different ways going up a mountain, and you just have attracted this path that has a whole bunch of different dramatic characters and side quests that people need to get through to get to the same result. And the same result is accepting the fullness of who you are. And so, yes, coming through the dark side of it is an option. And sometimes processing it through that depth is the most effective way to get there. So that's one of the things is that I have a marketing background. So it's like, if you
we're
want to be
we're way off of
fast,
that. We're off the reservation on the marketing thing. This is all energy. Believe me. I believe me. I know they're running me through the grind every single
yes,
day for the
I know,
last. I mean, 2 months. I
I
mean,
know.
My mom, no, and it's not about me. It's actually what you're saying is very real. It's
It
very
is.
true, and it speaks to our collective experience and our personal experience. And there is another side to it that they're showing me. Because believe me, look, my hair stopped falling out 6 weeks ago, so that's something's turning. and and my mom, we went to Sedona, and it took. She's 84. It took a lot out of her. And plus, I mean, there was some crazy. I mean, you were in Sedona. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're 84 or 61 or whatever you are. But so then when she came back, we were on this slow path. Let's be balanced. Let's move you back home. We'll hire some people, and then I get a call 3 days back, and I'm trying to get back in the groove, and she separates her shoulder. She fell. So then I had this whole experience of, man, what do you got to do versus what does it feel like you need to do, right? So I
Yeah.
just started helping her. I said, we got to move you back in right away. Like the next day, I moved over, slept with her, and so I had all that going on for like 6 weeks. No marketing, no promoing, no shows, just barely hanging on, and and I kept hearing, don't worry about it. And I'm like, and me, I mean, I question every voice, and I was like, look, man, come on now, right? Like, come on, give me a bone, something. And so what's happened is it's turned into this, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, I'm not going to say it does, but it's come down to this frequency or guidance, and I know I'm not the only one where it's about feeling. Now that we've learned our feelings, going back to what you said about the emotions, because to me I totally get what you're saying, because they're like catalyst, but there is this point, and it's not a 0 point, like from a light worker perspective. I'm not throwing shade on anyone at all. I'm saying that it's an experience that nobody could have prophesized or written about or could tell you, anything about, because you have to get there. So what has come down to me, for me, has been this message of just gather online, in person, um, encourage people to express themselves and be themselves, and things will happen. Just chill out. And so one of the things that's happened, as an example, has been when I started, I said, we're going to have a children's tent. And I had this whole idea for it. But with everything that went, past me, and then all of a sudden, all these star children are coming, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute now. Now, if I'm catching this correctly, then you're giving me code that, as crazy as it seems, in a world where we don't listen to children, and we certainly don't listen to star children or children that talk about what planets they're from, or et cetera, or display certain abilities. You're telling me that consciously I can, be a part of something that kind of uses, provides a springboard, for this energy. And it could be something else too. It could be the feminine coming out. It could be a lot of different things. But I've seen it, and it makes no sense. And I'm tired. I mean, I couldn't even open my eyes until 4 o'clock this afternoon. I mean, it's like, what is going on? But I keep hearing that. I keep hearing, just relax, and just let it go. And whatever a person feels like doing, be it family, be it a gathering, be it making music or art or whatever the case is. I know this sounds corny, but it's not pious. That's the difference for me. It's like, do what you want to do, be who you want to be, and that's what I'm feeling, and it makes no sense. And believe me, I'm over here white knuckling it. What? It's going to be in 4 weeks, 5 weeks? Oh my God! But we've had some people come in town, and we got some more people coming in town, and they're willing to help. And we get the property about a month, about 3.5 weeks before it starts. And so, we're just going to have to tell the story and film as much of it as we can. That's what's happened in the past, and see what happens. See who shows up online, who shows up in person. And, as of right now, it's totally unconventional. I will say that. And I've had to get over.
Well, yeah, well, it's always been unconventional. I feel like that the whole thing is, but I okay, so here's the other thing. So we've gone through so much. I think in the especially and I always called Todd the canary in the coal mine. because you just have that, you just have, again, natural talent to attract certain collective experiences first before it sinks into the rest of us. So, one of the things that is interesting, if you guys have been following us along, we've been friends for quite a few years now, and I've always made fun of Todd being the master of chaos. I think last year's Soulogy Fest 2, it was basically structure versus chaos in most of our of our show, where I try to enforce some organization, some structure, some discipline and commitment, and Todd just manages to break it all down. So it doesn't. So it became a running joke. So one of the things that came up, which is ironically the biggest joke, and this is, we've talked about this kind of quietly, but I feel like it's one of those things where and now part of my ankle demon bite is to actually share the knowledge that comes in. I don't share everything that comes in because some of it's myself. So I have to sit with it and say, is this personal? Because if it's personal, I'm not going to be, I don't really have a need to share that part out. But if it's collective, then other things to like happen, right? Where I'm like, okay, this is more collective. I really should be sharing this out and not gatekeep the information because it's kind of useless gatekeeping it. One of the things that has happened, and I would say the so it's been very intense. Let's start back with it's been very intense. And the last couple of years, one of the I call it the paradox. So you call it the watershed moment, where it's like a pivot moment where everything you're not really sure what's going to happen, but something catastrophic is you can feel it on the horizon. We're in a period of what I call a paradox moment. This period actually started most likely during COVID, and we didn't know it. So the paradox um, theory that I was working on but not sure of, and it all clicked in probably last month, I feel, is during COVID, another timeline, we'll call it chaos, and just for ease of conversation, we'll call it the chaos timeline. COVID chaos timeline came in, and it came in such a way that it, for some people, I'm not saying everyone, but for most people, it came to a point where you have a come to Jesus conversation. You know, everyone has had this. I feel like a lot of your community can relate to this, where it's just like there's a pivotal point in your life where you're not sure what to do. Your heart is racing, but it's also stopping. You don't want to breathe anymore. And it feels so hard to keep going. So then what do you
That was
do in
this
that?
morning. I'm
And
serious. That was this morning. I'm telling you.
and it's one of those things that what did you do, Todd, when you get to that point where you're just like where you just can't move forward, you don't have anything in the gas tank, you already borrowed 10 years running on Jesus juice and the tears of unicorn, and you're at the end of your rope. What did you do?
You really want to know? Let's just say I was Todd. That's all. Let's just say that, like, yeah, and what you described was the perfect description, and it's been that way, and it's been building up, and I feel like it's, part of the residue from doing all the things I've done over the last few weeks, which, like I said, moving my mom and making sure she's okay, and trying to get the network going, trying to get the festival going, and moving like at a not even a turtle's pace. It'd be like a no, I don't want to say that, but like a really really slow turtle. Like a and but and then at the same time, all these things are coming up because obviously I'm interacting with a lot of people, and I'm finding that to be very direct, not like vigilant about it, but just go, oh wait a minute, I need to handle this, and just being direct with them for my own health, right? You know what I mean? It's like dog paddling. And so then, as far as like to what you're talking about in terms of like the long run or whatever, I just keep getting this slow, very slow, slower than the turtle I just described. Um, Feeling that others are coming. They're coming every day. It's all going to be fine, and um, I'm getting affirmation of that by the things that happen every day. So I can't really explain it. I mean, I've tried to jump on a few times, 3 or 4 times a week, and just talk about what's going on in my head, like I always have. But there's something going on, and it is a collective thing. It is a collaborative thing. And the one I got the other day was, as long as we think that the world is fucked, or those people are asleep, or what, whatever the thing is, then it's going to be that way, and we know that. But there's something bigger than us that's happening, and for me, it's just like, just relax. And where I was physically exhausted today, to the point where, I mean, literally, I took a shower finally at 3, and I felt somewhat better, but I still had to think, and I still had to think about the things that need to happen. I had to deal with people, and I'm like, man, I got to go by myself, and that's what I did. And so that seems to be more important than anything. I go to the bayou every night. If I don't go to the bayou, sometimes I go to the bar. And if I go to the bar, and I'm just, transparency is the only way. And people don't have to, agree with me. And, I'm just telling you my straight up truth. Because going to the bar for me isn't what it is for most people. For me, it's 2 shots of whiskey and a beer, 3 cigarettes, and half a joint on the way home. Now, people might say you're not a good light worker, but they've been saying that for years. I just think that at this point, being direct is being transparent. And if you're, I told my mom today I got nothing left, you know, and she said, sometimes I go to the bayou, sometimes I go to the bar, most of the time I go to the bayou, and sometimes I go to both. And she said to me, you know, there's a lot of people depending on you. So that part of it's there for me, but without judgment, just saying, hey, this is my turn this time, or whatever the case is. You're in this situation. Doesn't matter how you got here. How do you do this? And I don't see it as me being a leader. I see it as me just doing me, and letting that, like a tuning fork, letting that energetic example just be the best. That's all I can do. I mean, this is for me. It's like I'm serious. I don't know anything. All I know pretty much is what I've told you, which is really only relevant in the present moment as we experience things, and that is, I feel like we're supposed to come together. I feel like we need to cut the bullshit with the judgment, and take on, not in a pious way, but we are conscious quantum thought creators. And I know it sounds crazy. We were told since we were kids, that's not, your imaginary friend's not real, or fairy tales aren't real. But something's going on. And I'm not going to say that's what it is. I would have 6 months ago. But something's happening, and it happens in the moment when all of the frequencies are just right and open like that. And I see it with so many different people. I see it so much around Soulogy, and I don't know what's going to go down in December. I have no idea. I could get swallowed up by the the biggest bug biter demon of the
God.
lower bowels of hell. I don't know,
Can you
but
not say that out loud? Okay, let's loop back. I'm gonna pause for a second.
but
I'm
to
gonna
your
pause
point,
for a
no,
second.
but seriously, to your point though, that this, you can say a lot of different things. And you can say, oh, your stuff's going to come up, and oh, I can see they're not getting it. It keeps the same thing in their life, or whatever the case is, whatever. But one thing is for certain, one way or the other, we have to face everything, and it could be the sleeping with the light on or off, or with the closet door open or closed. It could be so many different things, and it's moving fast, and I respect it totally. Yeah.
Okay, so my question, I'm gonna loop back.
Okay.
so my so my question was, before Todd went on his rant,
Oh, did I go on a
it didn't,
rant?
didn't really answer the question, but that's okay. So the question is,
What was?
when you are at the cross point of your life, and absolutely you feel the whole weight of the world, and you can't breathe, you can't move forward. What usually happens is most people give up their life to a higher power. Then you're like, okay, you become at peace, you just kind of give over your power. That is the pivot point of humanity. So somewhere along in during COVID, the collective got to a point where we were down on our knees. Everything felt so heavy. The air felt so thick. It was so hard to just breathe, because it felt like the whole world and the walls were closing in on you. And that's when most people are like, when you're at a crisis point where it's near death or whatever, and you're just like, okay, whatever happens to my life, I trust that it's in its highest alignment. I trust. So that's when you give over your power, right? And you just hope that a higher power than you comes in, intervenes, and takes on the next step for you, pushes you to the next step. So you don't have to make the decision of the next step. I'm going to repeat that one more time because
Okay.
it took me one full year. Because a lot of people are like, oh, what happened to Hung? She disappeared for a year. It took me a full year to really feel the depths of this. And it took me another couple months to really formulate this through. So during COVID, the chaos timeline came in. And what it did is it created a lot of chaos in people's lives. You were open to everybody's shadows, whether you liked it or not. You were open to your own shadow. The wound just festered open. So all that bullshit during the Renaissance period where the wound was scabbed over and you thought it was like healed, it never was. It just scabbed over. Okay, that's not healing. So during COVID, that wound busted right open, and we were on our knees as a collective, and we wanted to hand over our free will to a higher power, because the burden of making the right choice, whatever that is, that burden was so big, was so heavy, was so disabling that we didn't want to make that decision anymore. So it was handed over. When we decided to hand that over, that's when the chaos timeline actually anchored in. And then so since COVID, we basically have been running on two timelines. And this year, the two timelines have started coming closer and closer together. So, one timeline, I'm going to name it just for ease of explanation, the free will timeline. So, pre COVID was free will. Now, in this dimension, we really don't have free will. We are destined on a certain path. Our free will only comes in on how we experience things. So, you will always have a car crash, for example. At that moment in time, you will always have a car crash. It's unavoidable. But your free will choice is, depending on the lens that you're wearing, you can view that car crash experience at your free will. So you can call it like, it was a blessing. It rerouted me onto my path. You can also take the fact of this. That was the fucking point. I lost my life, lost my dog, lost my house. You became like, you became like a country song. So that was your free will choice though. So it was one of those things where it's just like, okay, yeah, that was your free will. Somewhere during COVID, though, we had called in, we were so strong as a collective of calling in another timeline where we handed over our free will. So that timeline that came in, although it looked like it was a chaos timeline, it actually is one, and I'm going to call it, for sake of explanation, the fated timeline. So this is where we handed in our free will. We traded in our card of free will to fated. And fated in this timeline means that you are 100% at peace at whatever car accident happens at your life. So when that car accident comes in, you're going to be neutralized. That charge of like, what do I make of this experience? That is a decision. Do I make this experience a warrior moment where it's a rising of phoenix, where I come out of it, or do I make it the chapter that closes the book of Hung? You know what I mean? So that fated. But the thing is, when you choose the fated timeline, the ease and grace of it comes with it, because you are not attached that you made the wrong decision of experiencing that certain experience, because it is already predetermined for you. So right now, during this year, the two timelines have come so close together. I'm trying to like position myself so I'm in the camera. So close together. So this middle zone here is where the chaos exists. When you still have not decided which timeline you want to be on, you're in the squeezy zone. That's where the chaos actually exists. So we're at a pivot point now where it's just like, do we continue on the free will point where you have the free will to experience everything through your own lens? But yes, the burden of making the right decision is going to exist for you. Or do you go on to the fated timeline where everyone has been asking for ease and grace, and you hand over your power to like basically your higher self? that you're going to be playing out this moment as an actor. You will not be burdened with it. You're going to move freely through this expression and not feel the heaviness and carry it on for timelines and timelines.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me tell you what happened. Okay. No, this is really good. Okay. So on the thing about, and you said it toward the end, so I'm just going to kind of reaffirm. Um, when you said that you reach this point, and you reach this point where you give your power up, but you actually went further than that. You said you're basically giving it up to your higher self, your soul, whatever you want to call it, right? And
Sure. Yeah.
that's okay. So when I went on the streets, that's what it was. It was this thing, where there was all this trauma, all this chaos, all this, all this stuff happening, and I was at that point, right? I was at this point, and we talked about this privately, which is what you're talking about now, and I reached this point of peace. And the peace was not like peace, like zzz, walking on water. It was a peace of like, I can only do what I can do, and I can only take one step at a time. And I was literally doing that, which must have been part of the mastery or part of the plan or something. Um, so then, 10 years ago, I end up here renting this part of the house from my mom, getting my two little girls back. And I told you this is where the first video came out about 10 years ago in October from Soulogy. Now, during the 2 years when I was on the street, I spent a lot of time on Buffalo Bayou and the tributaries of Buffalo Bayou. I would walk the bayou. I lived on the bayou before I went homeless, and I had a lot of experiences out there. And it always felt very kindred, it felt very primordial. And so I made a lot of friends and I had a lot of activations, whatever. So when I moved here, she has a little branch of it that runs right behind in the back. And I would sit out there and I would hear these beings, and I guess there was a relationship of some sort, but my communion was you know now I've changed. I'm in this other place. I'm kind of back in 3D or back in the story. I got my little girls back, their mother's passed, etc. I got this stuff going on with my mom, whatever. And um, and so I would sit out on the bank behind the house and I would connect. Instead of walking, I would be connecting with the bayou and the trees and the animals and all that. So now, about a week ago, I'm going through some of the stuff that you're describing. The chaos, the two coming together, seeing both, where are you standing, and all that stuff, questioning the human, um, giving credence to the guidance that got us all here, the whole 9 yards. And I'm sitting out there, and all of a sudden, there was a central point, and the central point became like this geometry. And then there were six beings or six energies on the left, six on the right. The animals are moving in the back. And I don't know if they're physical animals or not, but they're the same ones that were here 10 years ago. And so what they said to me ultimately was, because I said, man, what the fuck's going on? Why don't I feel good, man? I mean, like, we've seemed to have gone through something, into the new earth or whatever you want to call it. Like, you can see it. You can see something's there. And it's weird. It's a different operating system. It seems to operate on the now, right kind of thing. But still, there was this not a discombobulation, but this this something, like when you have a crawl in your stomach, right? Or you just have a feeling. I'm like, why don't I feel, you know? And then they said to me, look, you were here 10 years ago. You were in the chaos, and you were at peace. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I can dig that. That's true. Whatever I was doing, I would always be in, I would find my peace throughout the day, over and over and over. I got a roof over my head now and whatever. And then they said to me, you're in the same state now, but you're in the peace. And I'm going making jokes like, man, I don't feel like peace, but it really isn't that bad. I got friends come in town. My daughters and I have reconnected. I'm reconnected with my mom, other family members as the Soulogy's growing, and whatever, you know. But real, not like, oh my God, Soulogy's growing. Everyone thinks it's like, no, man, it's hard work every fucking day. and it's
Yeah.
and it's nerve wracking, and it's you want to provide the best, and there's all these things running right, but
Yeah.
there is this piece, and so the contrast was like, okay, now I want you to look back. I'm like looking back at the cops and jail and judges and probation officers and this and that and this and homeless and all that stuff. Um, and now I'm sitting here and going, okay, wait a minute. You're with your mom. It feels right. You were called to do it. All the other stuff. Friends are coming in town. It's crazy, wild things happening called Soulogy Fest, and you know you're in the peace. And so now you got to get used to it. And I realized it was easier to get used to it or find it when I was in the chaos. But now I'm in this peace, and I'm just kind of understanding. I'm not. I'm telling you as much as I understand, but I'm trying to or seeking to align with what I got that night a few days ago.
Yeah, because I feel like so even for myself, I would say I echo your situation as well. Obviously, not to the same depths as what you're going through, but life has definitely been very chaotic since COVID. It's been very chaotic. We've gone through multiple family deaths for ourselves. We've had like fire situations. We've had health situations. There's just been a lot, right? And so it's one of those things where it's like um, with the two timelines, the reason why it's a lot is because we are currently in a situation in the space in between where I'm not sure if we have to choose, because normally for dimensions to work well, whatever that means, is you have one strong timeline anchored in. The paradox is you can't have two timelines. That's where the paradox is.
Yeah.
So paradox is like having the opposites exist at the same time. So right now we're at the moment where it's just like where do we go from here? Do we still like are we on, and it's funny because I'm looking at the screen, there's me and there's you obviously, so I'm obviously on like the free will timeline where I like I like to feel like I have the free will to experience everything in my life. And then there's you on the other timeline where you have always handed over your situation to a higher power because that's the least resistance for everything that you're going through. That really is the smartest choice for someone like your soul who has decided to choose such a more difficult, challenging task. Being on the faded timeline is going to bring out more endurance for you, because honestly, I don't, someone on the free will where I have to like all the shit that you had to do and I have to like take that and try to make a positive perspective out of it. I don't think I could do that. And I think it, being honest, if everyone's looking at you, one of the reasons why you have accidentally become this ambassador for this um, level of alchemization is because most people can't do what you did. You know what I mean? I would have like ended it way back then, listening to your story. I would be like, oh, hell no, I didn't sign up for bullshit. What is the fun of this? So when you're looking at the friends that are looking at us right now, this is the paradox: Hung versus Todd, the free will versus the faded, and in between is the chaos. And I'm not sure if this world can handle two timelines coexisting so closely together. So when you're like sitting there, you're like, I can see that higher timeline, but why don't I feel good? I think is like such a perfect metaphor of what everyone is feeling right now. So the spiritual community is questioning its own spirituality, right?
Yes.
Where you're like, holy motherfucker, we've been talking about ascension for so long. Why don't I feel good? This feels like shit. You know what I mean? We've done all of this work. Like I know a lot of people are like, I've gone through classes. I've attended so many different forms of methodologies for like healing myself. And still, it's just, I still don't feel good. In fact, I think the awareness makes me feel more jaded. You know what I mean? Like now you're just,
Okay. Okay. No, you brought up a really good point. Okay, so, and it's just my take on it, but I think it's accurate. Okay, so if I'm on the faded, and you're on the free will, or any people, whatever. Um, I think, we have this whole thing with the grass is greener, and I think that's what you're saying is, do you really have to make a choice? It's one or the other, but it's really the same. And again, going back to what you said about the perspective of the experience, what experience is going to be more is going to be more ease and grace from what level of comprehension that we have, or any individual, what wherewithal they have at a given moment. So I get that totally. Now I think the thing that I would like to plug in is that people might look at me, okay, in on the faded timeline, and uh, they might have certain notions about my disposition, or my philosophy, or my flow, or lack of whatever. Well, I'm here to tell you that I go through the same levels, not debilitating, but the same echoes and of doubt, and fright, and
Yeah.
different things. And my feeling is this: is that um, you're gonna feel it either way. You're gonna feel it either way. Like I always use the example of sitting in with Ty, and trying to do something with in a melodic way with my voice, or try to do something freestyle. It's scary as hell. But I found that I'm scared whether I don't do it, and I'm scared if I do it. So then you start to do it, and I guess that's what I'm saying about what we're referring to as the faded um, timeline, is that I'm just going there. I'm just going to the network every day. I'm going to the Soulogy Fest. I'm going to my connections. I'm going to my mother. I'm going to the different things that are in my circle of life, and kind of carrying that. I'm doing the best I can. I'm not going to be in self judgment, and yeah, but I still go through these doubts, and I know, because I've been on the other side too of the free will timeline. I had the doubts there too. So it's like, what am I going to do? Stand here, not in a bad way, or let's just say, take the slower boat, or am I going to go in here into the speedboat? I agree with you. I really feel like that's something that in the paradoxical, infinite teachings of the universe that cannot be denied. Why can't both be the same? Because the only thing that's different is the experience, or the type of experience, but the common denominator is the perspective of the experience. So is what you were saying. So can you move towards that piece on one of those timelines or the other? And if you can do it on one, can you do it on the other? I mean, I don't know what we're
I
doing.
think you have always, the part of the free will is you have always had the choice to connect into with the higher a higher timeline. The biggest difference, which is feeling really uncomfortable, where you are constantly exhausted. You don't have those plateaus where you're like, oh, it's hunky dory. Let's let's breathe in, let's breathe out, and relax. We don't have that anymore, right? So that enduring exhaustion is the best way to describe it, is because the frequencies of the two timelines actually don't match up. So in the free will pre-COVID timeline, when you were able to go through mastery, this is what like my teachings of my dad would say, when you're able to go through mastery, you would leave this timeline intentionally, access the other timeline and spend some time there, and that gives you breathing plateaus in order for you to come back and you reconnect in with this timeline. So that there was what you would call a cosmic cheater code, is the best way to explain it, right? But with this, it doesn't. You know what? It doesn't matter how enlightened you are. Okay, I know you are constantly exhausted and not feeling well. Like everyone that sits there and says, "I'm feeling great," I'm like, "Yeah, you keep saying that, your house is gonna fall on you." Like, the two timelines are so tight together
Mm,
that you can wave at each other
yeah.
from the other timeline, which has never really existed in this dimension. That's what's causing the chaos. And the chaos is because the two frequencies are operating so differently.
Mm.
So the point is, what happens now? Do you just stay in the middle and become like constantly exhausted, which I think is what's happening? That's what everybody's feeling, like constantly exhausted, can't catch a break, can't find moments of like pure joy that can carry them on. Because we used to be able to have these small moments. So when 10 years ago, when you were there, it felt better for you because those moments you were like in a bubble and the bubbles had some longevity to it. It gave you some sustaining ability to like stay away from the chaos, but that bubble just erupted. We don't have those bubbles. We're not hamsters running around in this world in a nice bubble anymore. That bubble, that like small access point of joy, just somewhere during COVID was not allowed. You weren't allowed access to that tool anyway. It's taken away. So it's just like you are sitting in the middle of like this constant battering of stimulations coming at you, and it's emotional stimulations. Hence, I know you don't like to talk about this, hence the global like humanitarian unrest and all the wars coming up right after like everything is happening locally to you as well, right? So it's like that hamster ball that we all curated as light workers in this community doesn't exist. And so we're all grasping at like, what's the next tool? Is there a teacher that's going to come out with some innovative new hamster ball? Because I don't want to feel my feelings is basically what we're saying. It is so hard to work through because we are such high level intuitives. We are pulling in vibrations from two timelines at the same time. And you're wondering why everyone is feeling frazzled. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where it's just like, yeah, we are high level intuitives. It's a double edged like sword right now. Right now, it's not great to be that because you are pulling in the frequencies of both timelines. And I don't know if this dimension is actually expansive enough to run both. That's why I call it the paradox right now. And we actually pulled in that timeline because at that point, humanity was like, fuck it. I don't want to make decisions. Somebody else make the decision for me, and I'll be happy to go through all the car accidents that were supposed to be orchestrated for me, and I'll be detached from it. I'll just go through and collect the experiences as a good little soul check mark. And when we die, we go up there and we're like, okay, A plus Todd, you went through all of those experiences and you're not jaded. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where it's like that paradox is here now. And so if you're feeling all of this, it's not because you became a shitty, failed light worker.
Yeah, right. I failed a long time ago. Well, as you
I know, but a
uh,
lot of people feel like that, right? And they're
yeah,
not saying it. They're just like they're not saying I don't feel enlightened or I don't believe in this. I think the biggest thing is like I no longer believe in this community.
I
I
don't
don't have anything that what makes me go, wow,
I
this
don't
is going to help me through it.
yeah, I can only speak from my experience. I can only speak from my recent experience because that seems to be all that has any value um or recollection. The people I'm running into are I'm seeing a lot of um watershed moments. People making huge decisions. They're making it for two reasons. One, the guidance they've been given in a big way, or two, they're choosing themselves. And at some level, at the human level, they're like, fuck this. You know what? I'm X number of years old. I'm going to follow this. But it's the same thread. It's this thread of what we talk about in these communities and all that stuff. So and then going back to because I'll connect it all, going back to the global stuff, you know, it's not that I don't want to talk about this, not what I was going to bring up. It's, I want to put my focus where I want to put my focus because that's all I got. Even if I'm tired, I'm just going to go that way. Even if it means I'm just going to daydream and lay down on my back for 2 hours and think
Mm-hmm.
about what I need to be doing or whatever the case is. But I think that um, I forgot now. Hang on a second. I'll bring it back. So okay, to me, it could be. I think you're right because I think the dimension is so dense that it hasn't had the elasticity. It hasn't been flexed. It hasn't been stretched. So we really don't know. There is an experimental connotation to to what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like the universe going into a situation and not really knowing what's going to happen. Okay, just this is the way it grows. So I look at the two timelines and I can kind of see like a toroidal field, and we're in the center of it. And maybe that's where we, bounce in and out of as souls. I don't know, but it's got for all the challenges it has incredible intel that you can only really gain from being in it. Now, if I go to the light side or the fate side or the side that's, all the bells and whistles and the fluffy love and light, and I'm not being, facetious, um, there's still something's missing, right? You're not having that contrast that we had. And then, of course, on the other side, it's the inverse. So I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like that. I think about too what Franco said. 10 days before that election with Trump and whoever it was, Biden, and not speaking in terms of the election or politics, but he said there would be two paths, and some will go this way and some will go that way, and it'll
Hmm.
go for like 2 or 3 years, which is about now, and then they'll come back together. So I just kind of see the slow boat, like you were talking about, not slow, but like I want to stop and smell the roses. I want to, I'm not in a big hurry. I'm not tired. I don't need to go act like a bull in a china shop. And then you have the other road, which is more wild and thrill seeking or whatever, however you want to put it. And that we both actually end up in the same place some weird way. I don't know. I don't know. But I'm not. Are you so like on the global level, after this whole thing that you pulled down about the COVID thing, because I think it's very relevant, uh, are you in fear at all about anything in terms of wars, in terms of bombs, in terms of COVIDs and mandates, whatever it would be? Reptilians invading us and eating us for dinner. I mean, are you in fear of any of that stuff? Anything like that?
I,
Or
yeah, I would say yes. And I think the biggest thing is because my anchoring is I am a mother,
right,
right? So when you're encoded as a mother, you will be in fear because the worst thing that can happen to
right.
a mother is your children. So I would be totally lying if I'm like, oh, I'm so enlightened. Aliens can come and eat me for dinner.
Just don't eat my
That's
children.
not that's not the case. I think what will I have a feeling that in order, and this is where the dragons help me through some of the um, data that has been incoming for me. So one of the things is I don't really channel information where I feel like there's an external force. I actually am more like computer centric. So information is in the field and I will data mine the field that's appropriate to me. I'll only take in information that like it's not altruistic. Okay. I'm not like one of those people. It's like, does it benefit me? Then I'm going to pull in the information. If it's not to my benefit, I'm going to ignore it. So if it's to my benefit, I'm going to gather this information and then it goes through like a bit of a processing and then I would say polishing. So this 1 year, I really, though I understood that the role of Soulogy, Soulogy Fest, Soulogy Network, Todd Medina, all of it, I understood the role. I was meant to be part of that role. But what I didn't understand was like, why is it so painful to be part of Soulogy Fest? Like of all my friends, why Todd Medina? Why did I choose one that likes to go on vacation on tropical islands?
Yeah, right.
Why did I find a friend that likes to hang out in Arkansas jails? You know what I mean? Like of all the
Right.
friends available in the world. So I did spend the year just bearing witness to all the codes because I find that if I have a little bit of a departure from it, the intuition comes in a bit cleaner, right, instead of having like that. So the information came in a bit cleaner, it all clicked in for me. And then I think what you're asking is, so what do you do with the information? That's great information, so now what, right? Like, yeah, great, that's perfect, huh? So who cares, we all feel like shit. Great, thanks for acknowledging that. What now? I The big what now is this is a moment where you really need to recommit. That is the big what now. So it's not here to create fear or to create like dangle a carrot stick that the faded timeline is better. I'm not saying the faded timeline is better at all. I'm not even calling it like the 12th dimension timeline. All I'm saying is on that timeline, you have forego the option to experience things. So you're not going to be burdened with like making the wrong decision. So when you're not burdened with making a decision, you're going to go through the experiences with more ease and grace, which is what we accidentally pulled in when we were on our knees as a collective and saying, fuck it, I'm at peace with whatever happens, right? That's what happens. You're not actually, when you're on your knees praying to the higher power, you're not asking them to fix your life. You really are asking them to gift you the strength that whatever comes forward for you, you are 100% at peace with it, and you will cope with it, and you're going to move through it with ease and grace. That's really what your higher self is saying. So the what now is you need to figure out and recommit. So it's one of those things is, what is it that you absolutely want to love, accomplish, and do in this lifetime? And then when you recommit, two things will happen. It will flow really easy for you because you chose a timeline. You will inadvertently choose a timeline. It's not the moment where it's just like, what, again, it's that paralyzing moment. I can't make a decision. Which one is the better? Neither one are better. Just one is less painful when you hit the painful marks because you are not attached to that experience. You're going to move through it a lot. It's like having the memory of a goldfish. It hurts and then you can't remember it. It's like giving birth to children, okay? And so it's one of those, that the fated timeline is, that's the best metaphor. You're giving birth, you're still going to go through the excruciating pain of labor. You're not going to avoid, that is unavoidable, but you're going to quickly forget, and then you're going to have multiple children. And every time you're at that point, you're like, why did I decide to have multiple children? This is the worst pain ever. You're going on the fated timeline. That actually memory, moving your memory from short term to long term doesn't happen. It doesn't move you to long term. So you will not be paralyzed when that experience comes up again further down your timeline. So this is the point of recommitment. What do you really want in your life? And once you recommit, things will flow a lot easier. And that was one of the things where it's just like, so kind of looping back to my festering ankle wound is like, okay, this is a moment where it's just like, okay, now what? We are all in a place where it doesn't feel well. Doesn't matter how enlightened you are. I don't care how many minutes you meditate. You know what I mean? Or like clear the cache, like we were saying at the top of the show. You are still going to go through this period of really intense frequencies coming at you. And it's an overload. You're going to be overstimulated. You're going to be exhausted. It is going to be a marathon. This is not a sprint. It is a hella marathon. So to get you through, you need to recommit. And what does that mean? If you're not sure, this is not a cheesy plug. Hang out with people that are similar to you. What happens in that is you basically go into basically an orbiting field where the collective of that energy form is going to clear out the cache of distortion for you. And you're going to be really razor sharp on how you're going to recommit because it will come to you quite naturally. So it's one of those things where it's just like, yes, Soulogy Fest is one avenue for you. If you were unsure why you wanted to go, like, why do I want to go? Last time Todd was in jail, he wasn't even there. It's just like, it's not about Todd. It's about putting you in an environment where you're going to be with other like-minded souls, basically your soul collective, and you as a group. What's going to happen is you're going to go through this really strong cleansing out of the codes, and you're going to understand what recommit means. It's going to become crystal clear for you if you are unsure. If you are sure and you just want to be like the person in there to help someone else along, that is another gift because you are sure. So that this is the moment of like recommit. What does that mean? And you can change. It doesn't have to be like the lifelong recommitment of your natural life. You decide to live until 100 and like, okay, that's a big decision. How can I recommit for the next like 45 years? That's not about that. It's about recommitting to your joy. What brings you joy now? That is the point that everyone is at. And I feel like that's the access point through the paradox right now.
Mm. Brilliant. It really is brilliant, um, because because of the way that you pointed out it followed COVID. Because if you look at it, 2020 it came out March, and then it ramped up really about the time we had the Soulogy Fest in Sedona,
Yeah.
and then
So
you had
Solar Gene Fest 1 came out of that
yes,
timeline.
exactly, and so then Soulogy Fest 2 was like toward like after the climax of like say mandates and all that, right? It started coming down slowly, right?
Yes.
And then I really dig this part about the recommit because it does speak to all of us. It really does. Um, because now, if you know most of us, if you paid attention, like say a few months ago, even 3 months ago, they started trying to test it, right? Oh, there's
Hmm.
another outbreak, and a couple of airlines started to have the mandates coming back, and a couple of things. Then it went away, and then there's been a few other things like that. You could say Ukraine's been like that. It's still going, but how but what's happening, what's being reported, totally different thing. In other words, it's not sticking. Just like false flag frequencies have kind of died down. But regardless of that, there's still, for all intents and purposes, an external force, external forces, external agenda, whatever you want to call it. That if we don't recommit, we'll go unchecked, and we'll go through that cycle or that loop again. So I think we've shown something by what's happened on the collective, even with what we can get through is what's true, what's not true. Uh, but I really like what you said because it does come down to the individual. And it's not like let's go clean up the oceans. It's more like, you know what? I'm going to, in a sense, I'm going to be, on my energy and those around me, my children, my mother, whatever, whoever that is around me. I'm going to be in this field right here, and I'm going to, try to, enjoy myself and have some ease and
Yeah.
grace, and and laugh, and I've enjoyed having friends here. I'll spend like 30, 45 minutes with them in the evening and just chill. There's no, it's just it's cool. It's cool, and it's nothing I can really explain that would make any sense. But I feel like it comes from this recommitting. And if I look at my own situation here, that's a very powerful word. That's a strong word, and I can feel that word. And I can see that it again. It's all or nothing. You either re up or you shut up. So
Well, I think a lot of people are ready for whatever comes, but a lot of people do need to understand what's happening, right? Because I think a lot of people are like, I don't understand what's happening, or maybe you're in the camp that I never really understood what's happening, so it doesn't matter. But I know what I feel,
Hmm.
and a lot of people are not feeling great. They're feeling they all the things that used to bring them joy no longer has that sustainability of bringing them joy. And it's because the two, like I said, I had mentioned the two timelines are so close to each other right now that you have two opposing forces basically shooting frequencies at you.
Yeah.
So that's the paradox. Like, how do you exist in a timeline that has like that you're not supposed to have two timelines. You're supposed to just have one, and then it navigates a lot easier. You have modalities that you have perfected over your years to get through moments like this, watershed moments, crisis moments, pivot moments. But we don't have that anymore. And one of the reasons why is because we have two frequencies happening simultaneously, running side by side. And until we figure out which one we want to be in, we will always continue to feel like shit. That's the biggest thing because this world is not built for two frequencies. You know what I mean? There's going to be a transition period. So it's one of those things where it's just like, the biggest thing is recommitting, and recommitting is finding what is it that you want out of your life. Sometimes you don't want joy. I'm going to be honest. Some people find joy very boring. You know what I mean? So like Todd. So it's one of those things
No,
where it's
no,
just
I
like,
like Joy. Joy is a very good
right,
thing.
sure.
Me and Joy have a good relationship every day, even if I'm physically
But
exhausted.
it's like, what brings you joy? And you can start with very small moments. I can tell you for sure, 1000%, meeting people similar to you is going to bring you so much joy. And you don't even have to say anything. You know, that moment when you meet someone and you're just like, this person, I absolutely love them. And I don't want to feel like a stalker, but I absolutely love you. And no words have to be exchanged, but it's just their frequency. That's what Soulogy Fest is. It is you're basically going to be enveloped in a situation where you don't have to say anything, like, but you feel, and you're just sitting there like just happy, and you don't know why. You're just like, how
Even
you have a smile
Hung,
on your face.
even Hung, who
Yeah,
doesn't hug people.
I hug people, but at the end of it, I was hugging people. Maybe because I, like, survived. But it's one of those things where it's just like, you will find your people, and that's what will help you through this transition period. This period is really hard. No one, absolutely no one needs to do it alone. If you feel alone, then it's time for you to recommit that we are naturally we like to be with people. Like, once in a while, yes, we'll say things that we hate people, but honestly, you do need to be around a couple people. You don't have to be around the entire community of Soulogy, which is like what, 20,000 plus now. You don't need to be around that amount, but if you can find one or two people that you just absolutely adore and no words are spoken, those are your people. And those people, because they will ping out and be like, are you okay, without you even saying I'm not okay. That's what you need to get you through this period, because it's not an easy period. So remember, in the text, you're like, are you giving me a heads up? And I'm like, yeah, motherfucker, we're in for a wild ride. Find your emotional support friend, because it's not going to be easy. That's what we're going through a period where it's going to get harder.
Okay, so yeah, I agree. I think if you look at like Project Bluebeam or actual ETs landing or so many other things that are sitting there on the surface, obviously it only makes sense that it does continue to be dripped out and comes out. But by the same token, on the because they're both timelines are running. The other timeline is that higher frequency stuff, which we really haven't proven that you can sustain yourself strictly on that diet. You know what I mean? But my point is, one's not going to grow without the other growing. That seems apparent, unless they somehow or miraculously become one timeline or something. I don't know. Maybe that's what we're doing. I don't know.
That could be a possibility. It's
Yeah,
one of, but the thing is, right now, it's not that. You know what I
exactly.
mean? That
Yeah.
definitely could be, all of those things could be possibilities. Aliens for sure. Interactions with, other star beings for sure is on the timeline. It will continue to be on that timeline, but at what level of interaction and engagement, we don't know, right? But it's, again, you need to build.
Okay, what happened there? It's the high frequency. That was trippy.
I totally got kicked
That was
off.
you. That was you. Yeah, and they've been suppressing the hell out of Soldier ever since, we've been picking up a little bit as we're moving closer to the Soldier Fest. No, but you said something else too. And I don't know. I'm not saying this is like I know it, but I'm just saying what I've seen out there and this whole thing, which I find very fascinating about the two timelines moving close together, like, and I still see that Taurus. But um, one thing I have noticed is more people telling me that, and I would speak for like say the last year, that they have made a conscious choice to go out into their community and mix with people, or
Yes.
even online mix with people. So I wonder if, and that's also the energy of Soulogy Fest and really Soulogy Network. All these people coming over. I want to do a show, you know. And by the way, we're working on the systems. It won't be too long. We can plug in, you know, all the people that are waiting to do it. It's like a lot of people, over 50 people. But um, and I'm just wondering if that conscious choice or that lifestyle or whatever you want to call it of actually going out and mingling and sharing energy is one of the timeline, or I guess it would be the fate timeline, and the other one, even though it doesn't mean that's the only way you can be on that timeline. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, energetically speaking, kind of holding everything here, right? You know, like not hoarding it, but keeping it to yourself. And on the fate timeline is one where we, I guess you could say in so many terms, be fearless and go out and trust and
Yeah.
mix, you know, universally mix. Uh, yeah, I don't know if that's the way it's broken up, but I have noticed that about people.
Yes, I think one of the things is with the faded timeline, the fear dissipates, right? So the fear of making the wrong decision dissipates.
Yeah,
So you will come out and you will try new things. You will live out what your whatever it is that brings you joy. It's easier to do it on that timeline. But that being said, even on the free will timeline, depending on your personality, you're going. It doesn't matter. You're gonna force it, right? So it just depends on your personality. If your personality is you've always been a little bit more like an introvert and shy, so you're opposite of me, I think you will thrive on the fated timeline, for sure. If you're bullheaded and arrogant and basically very ambitious and driven, you're going to do better on the free will timeline
true.
because you have this false, like, delusional confidence that you control your timeline. So that will work to your favor. Not There's not one that is better than the other. This is where the recommitment happens, and if you're not sure, you will kind of know because you don't have to know, is what I'm saying. If you're not sure, you don't have to know. You could just hang out with a bunch of like-minded people. You're going to connect with a whole bunch of, like, one or two souls at least. Maybe there's going to be a whole group, and that group synchronicity is going to clean out your energy and it's going to naturally happen for you. So there's an organic way of doing it. You don't have to be methodical and sit every night and say, like, recommit. I'm not saying that. If you choose to be a little bit more organic, the best way to do it is to hang out with other people in the flesh. Online is okay, but it's online, right? It's a digital world. It's better to do it in person because what happens in person is things happen a lot faster and you remove the distortion. Even with digital relationships, there's a little bit of distortion there. I don't care how high frequency you are, there's still a little bit of distortion because there's only one presentation that you're going to emit online versus in person. It's hard to, like, hide all the facets of you. So you're gonna connect really quickly. So it's one of those things where if you're not sure, a great way to figure it out is to just be with a bunch of people. And I think that's a lot more gentler than, like, hung hammering down, recommit. People, we need to recommit or we're going to be in this chaos forever. You know what I mean? That's obviously not the way to go.
It's better
But
not be. Better not be.
yes,
Jesus Christ Almighty. Um, yeah, and yeah, you know, you're right. And it's not a plug. I mean, it's really not. It's actually, I've been talking about this. If you can't do it at Soul, you do it somewhere, you know. But like, even if you look at the way this thing's unfolding, we're actually going to have tents up on the Monday. So Monday night, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, people are going to be gathering there. I know quite a few people, like
yes,
Ernestine's coming in on Sunday. Jessica Black's coming in next week. Anna Toothman's coming in on the 19th. There's some people coming on the 18th. There's some people coming on the 23rd. So there's going to be, you know, a lot of activity there. And like the other two, and I would imagine any festival or event, it picks up at the end quite a bit. And so I don't know, you know, but I do know from the first two, you know, you could say, okay, this person did this presentation, this person did this musical performance, or this happened or that happened. But the thing that really sticks is the connections. So many of those connections, you know, have just
yes,
continued. Yeah, it's true.
yes. Yeah, it's a very organic way of
Mm.
trying to figure out if you're not sure. It's an organic way of really helping you through that process, so um, you're a little bit more energized, number one, and you're also a little bit more secured because you're going to find someone that's going to help you walk the path. Because really, I would say the next 6 months are going to be really rough unless you really, and if you found
Jesus
if
Christ.
you found the magic
Man,
elixir,
I'm hanging it up. I'm on. This is my
maybe,
final show. This
yeah,
is my final show. That's it. With her prophecy, I'm done. I'm gonna stick a fork in my ass. I'm gone. I'm done.
yeah, because it's just one of those things where it's just like I don't know. So going back to the my festering ankle wound that's still festering and pulsating as even as we speak, it's one of those things where it's just like the lineage is asking me to recommit to demon slaying, obviously. Because the other day, my dad was saying he was looking at my ankle, and he's the only person that noticed my ankle without pointing it out. He goes, "What's going on there? That looks really gross. You should look at and get some help with that." And then he stood back and he goes, "You still have that bite from that time you visited
Oh
your
my
friend?" Because
God, he told you
didn't
that?
tell him. Yeah, I didn't tell him about Soulogy Fast. I just said I went to go visit my friend in Arkansas. So that's what my dad thinks I went to do, right?
Did he,
So
did he
and
ask
so
you?
he's staring at it, and then he was like, you know, and he just gives me that look, right? And my mom starts yelling at him, "Don't go into that. She doesn't have to fight demons. You just stop it right now." That's just what my mom always says to my dad, right? And he goes, "Okay," and then he walks away. So he doesn't say anything.
Makes sense.
But at that level, I understood it's just like, yes, the portal is open.
Yeah.
There's lots of portals open too. So if you're a gatekeeper, and Julie Dahara Roberts is probably, she has lots of stories as well, because she was traveling the Eclipse Corridor,
Yep.
which is a very thin veil. Lots of portals open up. There is portals opening up everywhere as well. So that's the other thing of it. That is, if you're a gatekeeper, you're also picking up energies that all these portals are opening up. So you're just like, okay, who is actually coming into the fields now? There's new playmates on top of everything coming into your field as well. Not that it's a bad thing or a good thing, it just is. There's just new forms of energy interacting with our timelines as well, not from just our one timeline, but the other timeline as well. So there is a there is like a clusterfuck shitbag of energies right now. and and it helps to have a friend, right? Especially a friend that's very similar in your frequency, because they will go through the same things. So even though, yes, we make fun in this community, like, yeah, you're crazy just like me. This is the next level of crazy, okay, people? So you really do need your friends around you to help you affirm through that. This, like, you're touching wood. You're like, okay, I wasn't crazy. Because when Julie went through that eclipse corridor, I had such a heart attack moment for her. I had to reach out. I'm like, "Are you okay?" And then she finally confessed. She's like, "No, it doesn't feel great." And she changed her itinerary because of it. But it did help that you have those friends in place as checkpoints where you're just like, okay, you're not alone. You're feeling extra sensitive to weirder energies. Like, you thought you mastered weird energies. No, there's a new level of weird energies coming in. So it helps to have friends.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what to say other than, yeah. Oh, you asked the question. What do you do? Well, I was talking to a very close friend a couple of days ago, just like you're talking about. You know, you're not having the same experience, but you're able to talk to them about it, and they don't. They're just as crazy as you are, right? I mean, they're acknowledging what you're talking about, and the word resilience came up, right? And so I've been sitting with it. I'm writing a song about it. It says resilience, and there's one word. It says that. But no, I think that's kind of the same thing. It may be the exact same thing that you're talking about as the byproduct or the what's accessible is the recommitting.
Yes.
Really recommitting and saying, okay, I am a human being. I'm here. I signed up for it. I bought the ticket. Yeah, it's gotten to this point. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. But kind of like you were talking about, just kind of being in atmospheres that we had come into, a lot of us, intuitively, innately, through practices, metaphysically, but that are starting to take on a physicality if we want to, if we choose to step out there. And you're right. It's worth. I mean, there's people coming from all over the world. This is wild. I mean, and they're carrying that element. Like, I'm going. I've got Victoria Rolfe from England. She's been around for a long time, and then she's like, I'm coming. And so we end up having a little video, and privately, and she said that I just got to be with my family. So she's
Yeah.
saying, I need to see what it's like to be in that energy. That's what she's saying, and that's what a lot of people have said. So,
Yeah.
and
But
hope.
it's hard to describe, right? If how I guess the biggest thing is people are wondering, is it don't want to hype it up, because I think what happens when you hype things up, there's an expectation, right?
Yeah.
So when that expectation obviously is not met, you're a little bit disappointed. What One thing I can promise you though is you're going to find someone there where if you haven't been able to find that person out in the digital world, you're going to find someone in the flesh that is very similar to you. And then that actually sends out a calling, a frequency. It's like a tuning fork. It sends out a calling, and you're going to find more of that type of person.
Yeah.
So and when, just like how we accidentally pulled in the faded timeline, there's going to be a strength in numbers. We accidentally pulled in a timeline of ease and grace, and how it translated is a faded timeline. Ease and grace does not mean that it's utopia where you feel joy every single day. That's really boring. Ease and grace means that every like watershed moment that you meet, you're going to go through it, and you're going to go through it with some neutrality and detachment, so it doesn't stay with you forever. That's what ease and grace is. It doesn't scar you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where something else comes up and then you freeze because that experience is so similar to the new experience. That's not what we are asking for. So if you find someone that's similar to you, you're going to be able to connect with them at such a level where you feel confident. That's the other biggest thing, is a lot of this community has been um, uh, basically the confidence of this community came out of programming that you're not good enough, you don't fit in, you don't belong, there's no acknowledgement for your existence. So with other people that are similar to you, you'll be like mind blown that they operate in the same way in their natural form, just like you. That's going to give you confidence, and that's what you need to get through these critical points that are coming up, is that you're going to be able to make it through with more not with ease and grace, but you're going to make it through with a little bit of value of why you have to go through those conflict moments, right? Because sometimes when you don't have value for something, that's when you give up. You're like, what's the fucking point? But when you have value for something, you will grit, you will have commitment, you will have endurance, resiliency. You're going to move through those moments, and you're going to basically come out of on the other side and be like, wow, I'm so glad that happened to me, even though it was so painful in the moment.
Yeah. It's a quick recollection. Some of them,
Yeah.
some of the memories. No, you're right on. You're spot on. You're right. It's about. It really is. And I have a feeling that whether we recommit or we don't, the energy is going to meet us.
Yes.
I really do. Now, what that means, I don't know, because I believe it could be 8 billion different Earths, 8 billion different people, or it could be two Earths split. It could be all kinds of different things. We don't know. We're in some really. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like that we have a cap on what could happen, even how quick something could happen.
Yes.
Because if we have a major uh, catalyst type of world moment, um, and again, if it comes from the timeline of free will, where we're just saying, hey, somebody make the decision for me, or if it comes from the other side, it's still going to have an effect on the other side. Both of them are going to surge. So, I mean, to me, that just speaks to, creating like a field of discernment, or you know, yeah, like a field of consciousness where you then take the next action from, and it's just got all the, one end of the spectrum to the other.
But what is discernment? Like, what's the definition of discernment? People throw that
Well,
word out a lot, right?
I think the way I'm using it is the way you were talking about it, which is basically this: make up your fucking mind. That's discernment.
Exactly.
Discernment
That's
is
discernment.
making a choice and saying, I understand and value and hold in reverence everything that's happened up to this point. But
Yeah.
for right now, as the days go, I've got to make this choice, and I'm not going to worry about was it right or wrong. I'm not going to second guess it. I'm just going to make this choice and keep walking. That's some similar to what I'm feeling, but it's very strange, and you still have little threads on you, and little things running, and it's weird. It's weird, but yeah, that's what I see with discernment: is make your choice, and basically live with it.
But that's I think a lot of people think discernment means making the right choice, and that's not actually what discernment is. Discernment is a variation of recommitment, where you're just like, do I want to listen to this narrative of like global unrest, humanitarian like breakdown, or do I want to really focus and zoom in on what brings me joy for this moment? So if just for most people, joy is expressing yourself in some way, whether it be through art, singing, food, whatever your love language is, that's your joy. So the biggest thing is just like with all this chaos, you need to figure out what is it that you really want. Because maybe your joy in the last couple of years has been your nightmare. Where it's just like, I absolutely used to love this and now I absolutely hate it. And then you're at the point, the critical point in your path where like recommit. Do you absolutely love this still? Like if we took away all your choices and do you still love it? And it's not the feeling of like, would I still love it? Because right now I hate it. That's not the point. The point is, do you absolutely still love it, even though right now you hate it because it feels so bad? Once you recommit, that bad feeling will disappear.
Yeah,
That's the point. That's what the universe is asking right now.
yeah.
Like, regardless, we're making this dream of yours a nightmare. Are you still committed to the dream? That's a really heavy thing, right?
Yeah, and I think the other thing is too, back to your point about discernment, because that's a really good point. Let's not. I mean, let's just say it this way to be nice: that discernment is make your choice. Make your choice. Based on what you have. Make your choice and move forward. Not to be confused with discernment, which is my decision, and I'm going to call it discernment that seems to lead to the timeline I want to be on. Like in other words, substantiating things, like you're really not committed because you're still giving up. It's like bypassing basically.
Yeah.
I think discernment is because what you're talking about, discernment is a place we can all go and we can all practice. you know we don't have to prove anything. Hey, I made my
No,
choice. And
you
here's
don't have
another
to.
thing.
You
Here's
don't
another
need
thing.
to.
Just because you
Yeah.
make a choice one day doesn't mean you're not going to, say you made a choice and gave something up. That you might get 2 months down the road and you make another choice and you bring that thing back in. I mean, so that's another kind of a fallacy. It's like, like the Ten Commandments. You know what I mean? It's like you can't go back. No, you can go back. Yeah, of
You
course.
definitely can go back, but all that access point is recommitment,
Yep.
right? If you don't want to feel all this heaviness, it's recommitment. You definitely can go back and forth.
Yep.
That's the beauty part of being dualistic. You can choose to play in whatever spectrum you want. But one of the things is right now, a lot of people are like, how did my dream become a nightmare? And then that's where you get lost in your commitment to the dream.
Mm. Yeah,
So
that's right.
through all of that, you need to, what happens is once you kind of sit quietly with it, and if that dream still ignites you, that dream still, like, you break out in a big smile, the goosebumps on your skin still comes up, and you forget momentarily about the recent nightmare of that dream. If that still does all those things physically to you, that is your dream. So what the universe is saying, recommit to that dream, and the rest will follow suit for you.
Mm.
Like what happened is you had disregarded the noise. You have acknowledged yourself within the chaos, and that's what they're asking. Acknowledge yourself in the chaos, commit to your dream. And we're going to end it on that. Oh, very nice.
Did you like that? Did you
That's
like
fancy. Although
that?
I would prefer the Muppets. If you have the Muppets, like, do you
uh,
ever hear the old man that they throw popcorn at you?
I don't think I have the Muppets. Yeah, that was cool. That was a mic drop to end it. I like that. I never used that before.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh, so funny.
it was good seeing you. It's always good
Yes.
seeing you, privately or publicly. She doesn't like to publicly admit that we're siblings or something. What are we or something? Although I gotta say, man, the dragons have come in here in the last I don't know, like 10 days. Yeah, I've never seen them on the bayou, but I saw them, 12 of them.
Wow.
Yeah, it was,
That will have to be another show.
yeah, it was cool. I was thinking about you. All right,
All right. Good night, everybody.
best to your family.